The night she shoved my hand away and hissed, "Don't touch me," seared into my skin. I froze in the hallway, stunned by the coldness in her voice, the house closing in around me. I didn't shout or beg. I walked out quietly, no slammed doors, no spectacle. I chose silence as my first move. I checked into a shabby motel and let the quiet do its work. In the pale morning clarity came. I remembered the small untruths, furtive texts, late returns, odd charges. Trust had been worn away like old varnish. Tonight I would stop pretending I hadn't noticed. Before dawn I slipped back in, deliberate and calm. I took her phone from the nightstand, unlocked it, and read with hands that did not tremble. Flirtatious messages, private pictures, reservations booked under another name, every suspicion laid out in her own words. I didn't explode. I photographed, copied, and saved everything. Evidence, I decided, would be my second weapon. When she woke and found me at the kitchen table, composed and steady, the color left her face. She lunged for the phone, babbling about friends and misunderstandings, but I handed it back and said nothing. Her words had already been spent. Her messages had stripped away any right to explanation. I poured coffee and let the steam hide the slight shake in my hands. I didn't leave. I began building a plan to make her betrayal impossible to ignore. I printed every message, every image, every confirmation, and assembled them in order. I wanted a record that could not be denied, precise, clean, and as brutal as the truth can be. This wasn't cruelty for its own sake. It was about making consequences unavoidable. Next I reached out to those who mattered, a few close friends, relatives who'd been uneasy, and the woman who had once been my wife's confidant. I approached each talk with restraint, laying out copies and watching shock replace the defenses that words once provided. Some defended her, some were silent. Most took a step back and watched the image she'd cultivated begin to fall apart. I knew reputation was currency for her. Her public-facing job depended on it, built on trust and a carefully crafted persona. Quietly, I emailed her manager and HR with the proof attached, listing the dates and the conflicts. I didn't invent accusations. I presented what she had written herself and let policy do the rest. News traveled differently than gossip. It moved like a stone dropped in still water, ripples reaching places she thought was safe. Calls came, messages arrived. People asked questions she couldn't answer without incriminating herself further. In rooms where she once drew applause, awkward silences took root. Her friends' defenses crumbled under the weight of her own words. She tried to fight back, shouting, promising to change, but her apologies sounded rehearsed. I refused to be baited into a public scene that would let her redirect sympathy. My quiet had become its own arena, where light revealed what noise could not. Then I made the hardest cut. I composed a careful message, sensitive details redacted, but the incriminating facts clear, and sent it to family, mutual friends, and a handful of professional contacts who needed to know. I held off on any public posts. This was targeted exposure, surgical, not spectacle. The aim wasn't to humiliate strangers, but to ensure her personal and professional life paid for the choices she'd made. When HR called her in, I saw real fear in her eyes. She feigned innocence, but the documents did the talking. She was suspended pending investigation. Colleagues who once toasted her successes began to avoid her. The life she had built on polish and omission started to fray in public view. Neighbors, casual acquaintances, even old schoolmates received quiet messages, not intended to shame, but to prevent further deceit. The web she'd woven to protect her secret unraveled thread by thread. Her lover vanished the moment pressure rose. He folded and stopped answering. She was left alone in the wreckage she'd created. I sought legal counsel next. Shared assets, the house, and claims where trust mattered required measured steps, not drama. I moved with precision. No grandstanding, only firm actions to secure what was fair and to prevent deception from becoming leverage. Documents were prepared, signed, and served. Consequences, I had decided, would be proportionate and unavoidable. On a chilly Saturday morning, I placed a thick envelope on the table, divorce papers, an itemized packet of evidence, and a short note. I did not gloat. My letter read plainly, "You told me not to touch me, so I walked away." I explained that she had chosen betrayal and that, from now on, her life would have to be honest, if only because the truth had been made unavoidable. I left before she could answer. She tried to shape public sympathy with a vague, carefully worded post about personal struggles. But the circles that mattered, professional peers and mutual contacts, already knew. Silence settled around her like frost. The small lies that had been her armor showed themselves as scars. People who had once sought her company now avoided rooms where she might appear. In the end, what I sought wasn't blood or spectacle. It was exposure, accountability, and the dismantling of the comfortable lies that had sheltered her. I wanted her to feel the cost of treating love like something disposable. Watching her face the fallout, career setbacks, fractured friendships, the humiliation of being confronted by those she'd deceived, was the bitter justice I allowed myself. When I walked away for good, relieved that the truth was out, I felt no pleasure in her pain. I felt relief and a clear, quiet resolve. Betrayal has consequences, and sometimes the most cutting revenge is the steady, orderly unveiling of truth.